Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to the pregnancy diaries with me documenting this pregnancy. And in today's video I'm going to be talking about all my first trimester symptoms, the tips and tricks that I have. I'm going to show you guys some products that really helped me during my first trimester, and we're just going to talk all things first trimester. So please enjoy, give this video a like if you do, and share this video to whoever you think it might be helpful to. And also subscribe, and don't forget to switch on that notification bell so that you can get notified when my next upload is, because I will be posting a lot more pregnancy content coming your way. So it's super exciting right now, so definitely subscribe and join the family. Please excuse this behind me. My husband is just sitting here studying nice and hard. Please make the ad for him. I have my cappuccino here ready, so this is gonna be nice and chatty. So grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and relax, and we can chat. So from weeks 1 to 4, I didn't have really much symptoms, no indication of pregnancy other than my implantation dip in my temperature, which I told you guys about in my video of how I knew I was pregnant before taking my pregnancy test. But other than that, I didn't have any other symptoms. In my previous pregnancy, I had more indication symptoms beforehand, such as strong sense of smell and bloating, and what is that one? And shortness of breath, things like that.
And gassy.
Not that's right now, it's a new symptom. So this time around, I honestly didn't have any pre-pregnancy symptoms in that weeks 1 to 4. From weeks 5 to 6, again, pretty much the same. I didn't have any hectic symptoms. My acne was starting to kick in really all over my face. I even had acne on my back at some point, which was so weird because I never normally get acne on my back. Then I was out of breath for the majority of my first trimester. By the way, as I'm going through the weeks, when I mention each symptom, this is when the symptoms started popping up, but once they were there the entire trimester. So just because I will speak about something that happened in week 8 doesn't mean it wasn't happening in week 12 and week 11 as well. But I was definitely out of breath a lot of the time. That is why it was so difficult to shoot videos, because I couldn't get a single sentence out without having to take a deep breath. During this time, I did keep testing
bombastic side eye.
During this time, I did keep testing to make sure that my pregnancy test lines were getting darker so that I could rule out any kind of chemical pregnancy or early miscarriage. And alhamdulillah, my test lines were getting darker. Hi guys, so it's been a week since I found out that I was pregnant. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And alhamdulillah, my tests have been getting darker and darker, my test lines. And I think the last test that I took, the test line was actually darker than the control line, which is a really good sign, alhamdulillah. I did decide to surprise my husband with a little gift. That portion of the video is in my finding out that I was pregnant video, so if you didn't watch that episode 1 of the series, go ahead and watch it. I will leave it linked down below or up here in the cards, but definitely keep up with these episodes. I did have a lot of anxiety during this time, as predicted, because of my experience with my previous pregnancy. So I was worried a lot that something could happen. I didn't really let it sink in that I was actually pregnant. I wasn't accepting it because I didn't want to get my hopes up. Pregnancy after miscarriage is a bit tough to wrap your head around mentally and emotionally. And it's been a bit tough for both Salman and I. Like, neither one of us have really let it settle in or let our hopes get too high. Now we kind of we are treading more lightly, so to say, or we're a bit more cautious with our emotions. And I make dua that, you know, Allah Ta'ala protects and nourishes this baby for its entire life, and that the baby is actually born healthy, that we don't go through another miscarriage, I mean. But at 6 weeks, I did go and see my GP to make sure that I was pregnant. We did a blood test that alhamdulillah came back positive, but we also did an ultrasound, and on the ultrasound I had a sac, which I didn't see the last time, but I had a sac that was measuring at 7 weeks. However, I didn't see any baby. I just saw a really small dot. And every time before my ultrasounds, I would do a lot of research and Google videos and pictures of ultrasounds at that specific week. And at the time, I thought it was 6 weeks. And so I would do research on what ultrasounds should look like at 6 weeks. And a lot of them said that you should be able to see a pulsing heartbeat on the ultrasound at 6 weeks, which I couldn't see from my GP's ultrasound. So this did caused me to worry a bit, but it also was a transabdominal ultrasound. She doesn't have the transverse ultrasound, so she did send me for me to go a week later to my gynae and do a transverse scan so that he can get a close look at the baby. Although I was nervous, alhamdulillah, I do think that this was the perfect time for me to find out that I was pregnant, because we were just about heading into Ramadan, which means that I felt that I was very close to Allah at this time. I was making a lot of dua. This was a time of reconnection with Allah, which was great for me. I was telling Salman that I'm so glad that it was right now that I felt pregnant, alhamdulillah, because all of those months I wasn't pregnant until now. And I told Salman, like, because of the miscarriage, if I had to fall pregnant in any other month, I think I would have been a little bit more anxious. But I think the fact that it's Ramadan and, you know, like, you feel so much closer to Allah in this month, and so I just keep making dua all the time. And that's what I'm relying on at the moment. Also, I do want to tell the story of how this happened, because I really do think that Allah, like, the timing was so perfect, alhamdulillah. As you guys saw in episode 1, it was quite a challenge for us to be able to conceive, and in that time I was talking to my auntie a lot, and she sent me, before Ramadan, she sent me this lecture of this sheikh, and he was speaking about, he was in his late 40s, and him and his wife had been married for years now, but they'd never had children, and they were already in their late 40s. And his wife, eventually, she stopped getting her period, and so she had assumed that she was going through menopause. They were basically at the point when they were accepting that maybe Allah didn't have kids in their plan. And so she went to the doctor to make sure that everything was okay. And the doctor said, "Hey, you're pregnant." And they were so surprised, as she was already in her late 40s and pregnant. And her husband asked her, "What did you do this time that allowed us to get pregnant? Did you take some kind of medication? Did you change up your diet? What caused us to be pregnant this time?" And the wife said, "I really didn't do anything different. I truly think it was because I listened to this other sheikh. He had a series on how to make dua properly, and she basically followed his every instruction and made dua in the proper way, and then she felt that it was actually her duas that is what caused her to eventually fall pregnant." And so I'm listening to this, and obviously it's a story of hope that you can fall pregnant, even when it seems like you might not ever fall pregnant. But I thought to myself, you know what, I wish that I could have heard that lecture series that sheikh did on how to make dua. And that sheikh had passed away at the time, so I was like, oh man, now I'm not going to be able to hear his lecture series. And lo and behold, during Ramadan, Sheikh Muhammad West, he did these lecture series on how to make dua, and he even specifically said, he referenced that lecture, and he said, I'm basically plagiarizing this other sheikh's lecture series on how to make dua. And so I was like, wow, Allah literally answered my duas. Allah's telling me, Allah's guiding me how to make dua properly. And so even though I was nervous and anxious throughout this time, I really truly felt close to Allah, and I felt like making dua was always kept me calm, and it always kept me at peace. So at 8 weeks, I finally went to the gynae, and alhamdulillah, everything was perfect with the baby. I even saw that little, flashing heartbeat on the screen, and I got to hear the heartbeat as well. Around this time, my fatigue and exhaustion was also really starting to kick in, and I had to take frequent naps during the day, and I would always go to sleep really early. However, at 6 weeks, that was when my nausea really started to kick in. Alhamdulillah. And because I was getting nauseous, I wasn't actually miserable whenever I was getting nauseous. It would actually give me some relief knowing that something is happening, the pregnancy is progressing, because I remember the last time I didn't get to that point where I was nauseous. I didn't reach that far in my pregnancy to have all those extra symptoms. So when I started to become nauseous, it was terrible at times, but also it gave me that validation. But it also gave me that validation in knowing that something is happening and the pregnancy could be progressing. So this was basically my mentality on all the symptoms of the first trimester, because the first trimester symptoms are quite hectic to deal with. You feel sick, you feel awful, low energy, tired all the time. It's not the most fun of times. However, mentally I really dealt with it well, because it meant that my pregnancy was progressing, and I was more grateful for the symptoms and I was more grateful for the pregnancy than I was miserable about them. In fact, on days when I didn't have many symptoms, those were the days that I had more anxiety. So obviously during this time when I was constantly sick, I would throw up almost every day. Maybe every second day or so I would throw up in the morning. So I wasn't able to work out as much. Bear in mind, I was fasting during Ramadan for the most of Ramadan, but I did have like a rule inside my head where if I didn't have enough to eat during the evening or the morning time, then I wouldn't fast for that day. Or if I threw up in the morning, then I also wouldn't fast for that day, because then I wouldn't feel like I didn't get enough nutrients to sustain the pregnancy. So for those days I just went with my tuition. I basically decided which is going to be easier for me. Is it going to be easier for me to fast on this day, or is it going to be easier for me to fill in the fast after the Ramadan? Filling in fasting days after Ramadan is definitely very difficult for me, so I rather opted to fast as much as I can. My doctor was okay with this. He was okay with me fasting during Ramadan. I did skip the last 2 days just because his wife, the nurse, she suggested that I shouldn't fast, but they were both fairly okay with me fasting during the Ramadan. Around 8 weeks is also when I started to become very fluish and nasally. My sinuses got worse and I had constant mucus in my nasal area. I also had this constant bitter, bad taste in my mouth. Some women say that they have a metallic taste in their mouth. I wouldn't describe it as metallic. I would just say that it was just an unpleasant taste. Even if I were to snack on sweets, it wouldn't take the taste away. That taste was stuck in my mouth. This also made the nausea kind of worse. I also had a loss of appetite, also due to the nausea. It was difficult to get food down, hence why on some days I didn't eat enough and then I wouldn't fast. I did lose a lot of weight in this time as well, because I wasn't eating as much. And whatever I did eat wasn't the healthiest of things. Sometimes the only thing that I could get down was a plain slice of toast. If I'm eating it, it's better than not eating at all. I wasn't really too picky on how healthy I was eating. I was rather focused on getting something in my body. I couldn't eat big meals as well, because being too full made me nauseous, but being too hungry made me nauseous. I was very moody and irritable during this time. My husband at some point had to tell me that I was being very snappy with him, and I really had to make a conscious effort to try and not get so irritated and annoyed at every little thing that he did. I was also needing to go to the toilet a lot, especially during the night. I would wake up maybe 3 or 4 times just to go to the toilet. Weeks 9 and 10 were my peak nausea weeks. These weeks were the worst during the first trimester for me personally, and I was basically throwing up every single day. On top of that, I did have a fever, and I only realized maybe 2 weeks into having my fever that I had a spider bite, and that is why I was feeling so sick. It was on a Sunday that I realized that my spider bite was making me sick. So I decided to go to the pharmacist, and they told me to go to the emergency room at the hospital because I was pregnant, so they couldn't prescribe me anything really over the counter. So I went to the emergency room, and alhamdulillah, they put me on an electrolyte drip as well as paracetamol, I think it was, in the drip, which was absolutely amazing because for once during my first trimester I felt more energized from the electrolytes. I didn't feel as, nauseous anymore because the electrolytes was also replenishing my body with nutrients, all that nutrients that I was losing from throwing up all the time. And the paracetamol just kicked in straight away, and all my body aches with the fever, because I was having body aches everywhere and sinuses and flu symptoms with the fever. And so the electrolytes, the drip really helped me, and I just got that, instant relief for just that evening that I was in the hospital. That was so amazing. Alhamdulillah, I'm so glad. The doctor prescribed me a specific antibiotic that is safe for the pregnancy, as well as paracetamol. And from weeks 12 to 13, all my other symptoms also started to slowly simmer away. I was still a bit nauseous, I was still throwing up sometimes I was still fatigued, but it wasn't as severe as it was in the weeks before. However, in that final week of the first trimester, every time I did get sick, I started to feel helpless. It almost felt like I was going to be sick forever and I was never going to get better. But don't worry, if you're in that first trimester, I promise you it does get better. For some people, for most people, there are people that still have nausea that continue throughout their pregnancy, and my heart goes out to those people. At my 12-week ultrasound, the nurse checked me again. When they checked me from my 8 weeks appointment, I was dehydrated because I wasn't drinking water or eating during the fast. But however, with my 12-week appointment, she told me that all my levels were good. I was hydrated, I was eating well. But when we took my measurements on the scale, it showed that in that 1 month from week 8 to 12 I'd lost a kilo. And so this worried me a bit actually, because I thought that being pregnant I should be picking up weight. But my doctor did say that it was quite normal for people to lose weight in the first trimester, especially if you are throwing up and you lose your appetite and you're not able to eat as much. So it didn't bother me that much, but I was starting to feel better and being able to eat bigger meals and more food as well. So I knew in my head that I wanted to make a concerted effort in my second trimester to try and pick up those nutrients. Now I just want to touch on a few topics that has to do with pregnancy in general and things that I thought about in this first trimester. Number one is body image. I did work out for a full year before I got pregnant, so it was and is still my intention to work out throughout this pregnancy, because birth is a marathon. It's a big event physically, so I want to prepare my body physically as if I were to train for a marathon. I would need to train for the birth. So I'm very excited about that. But in my first trimester I wasn't able to work out at all really. I probably only worked out maybe 4 or 5 times in the entire 3 months of the first trimester. But with body image in general, my opinion about my body during this pregnancy has been widely positive, only because I know what my body is doing. I'm always researching on the things that's going on inside my belly, like what the development of the baby, what is my body doing to be able to take care of this baby, like the increased blood flow, the excess oxygen that I'm giving to my baby, the nutrients that are going from me into my baby, and also what I'm getting from my baby in return as well, because their cells are also being transacted between mine, which is so flippin' cool. Allah is so amazing. And so I just see it as a very positive thing. But I do know that body image can be a very big thing during pregnancy, because it can be a bit weird when your body is going through all these changes that sometimes you kind of are unable to catch on to it, and your brain might not be able to process everything that's happening all at once, and so I can understand where that dissociation comes from with you and accepting your body and the changes that it's going through. I have gotten a bit wider and like extra fat on the sides, but I know that this is because I'm pregnant and my body is doing amazing things, so I should be kind to myself. I'm trying to take every moment as it comes and really be present, because I do feel like it's gonna go by so fast and I want to cherish every moment with it. The second thing I want to touch on is mental health. Now, in the first trimester specifically, I did have a lot of anxiety and a little bit of depression here and there. But I did learn a lot from my first pregnancy, because in my first pregnancy, my emotions were crazy all over the place. Like I said, there was times where I was moody and irritable, but this time, because I had that experience before, alhamdulillah, I knew what I needed to do to be able to take control of my emotions and retouch with my mental health. And so often I would meditate, often I would ponder over my thoughts. Are they rational? Am I overreacting? Often I would make dua as well, which really helped a lot with my mental health during this time. I also experienced some loneliness, and this was mostly kind of homesickness, because being pregnant is such a special time in my life and I would love to be able to share it with my family. And that is why making these videos is actually something that's very healing to me, because I know that I can show these videos to my family back home and they'll be able to in some way experience the pregnancy with me, because I do feel very lonely and I'm craving that community with my family. Mentally, it was also very hard to connect with this baby the way that I did with my previous baby. I didn't want to get my hopes up most of the time. I was trying to ignore it for most of it, but eventually I did get to that point where I decided that I really truly wanted to form a connection and fall in love with this baby as much as I was in love with my previous baby. I think when it really changed for me was when I started to feel the little flutters and the little kicks, which I also think I felt quite early on compared to other women. I started feeling it at about 13 to 14 weeks, which is very early, but I think it's just because I'm hyper aware and I'm doing a lot of research. Seeing the baby in ultrasound form is also really helpful with connecting with the baby. And number 3, I just want to quickly touch on this, and that is intimacy during pregnancy. And I only want to talk about it because I think that a lot of women experience this, and some women might feel like there's something wrong with them, or they might feel embarrassed about it, but it's truly normal. It is normal during pregnancy to have that loss of desire in certain parts of your pregnancy. And so I think the key is to just open that communication with your husband and make sure he understands why you feel the way you feel. Make sure that he knows that it's not that because of him and that he's doing something that puts you off. It's maybe just that's how you're feeling right now in your pregnancy. Now I would like to share some tips and products that really helped me survive my first trimester, so that maybe you can use some of these to help you survive yours. So for nausea, I found that eating as soon as I woke up really helped, because I think it was the hunger from the night that really made me want to throw up. And then I would throw up, and I would also throw up acid, bowel acid, because there wasn't really anything in my stomach at that time of the morning. So definitely don't be like me and just chill in bed before getting up to go eat. Also, because I didn't have an appetite and I would get nauseous when I became full, I think a good thing would be to eat smaller meals more frequently rather than big breakfast, big lunch and big dinner. That can really help with your nausea as well. I've heard that some women use ginger to help with their nausea, like ginger biscuits and ginger tea. However, for me, I tried it, but it didn't really help that much, because I still had that bitter, unpleasant taste in my mouth. And for me, the best thing was mint sweets, especially these Manhattan chewy mint sweets, because it is the closest sweet that tastes like the mint chappies from back in the day. So I really like those mint sweets, and I'll just snack on those to try and get that bitter, unpleasant taste out of my mouth. That also really helped with the nausea. Next, you want to be drinking a lot of water and staying hydrated all the time throughout your pregnancy. This is going to help with your energy levels. It's going to help if you have any nausea and any headaches, things like that. With your skin having to stretch so much during your pregnancy, drinking water can really help, you know, reduce the appearance of stretch marks. So I've heard, I'm not sure. I'm sure that if you're genetically predisposed to get stretch marks, you will, regardless of what you do. But I am sure there are ways that you can minimize the look of stretch marks. Staying hydrated is very important, which is why I would recommend you to get a really good water bottle. But I got this from Cotton On. I'm so sad that I dropped this bottle in the gym the other day and it actually broke here just a little bit, just the handle, but it can still work and I can still use the handle pretty well. So I'm not going to be taking this to the gym anymore. But this is a vacuum bottle, which means the water in here stays cold for up to 6 hours, which is amazing for me because I love my water to stay cold. Some vacuum bottles allow your water to be cold for 24 hours. This isn't that long, but that's okay because I find that I normally drink this up. I finish the bottle before 6 hours, so I normally do have ice cold water all the time. And I know that it's very important to stay hydrated, not just during your pregnancy but also postpartum during breastfeeding. I've heard that you get quite thirsty, so I did want to make sure that the bottle that I chose was number one, vacuum, so that it can keep my water cold, but also number two, it has a straw here on the top, which means I can just flip it open with one hand. So one day postpartum, inshallah, while I'm breastfeeding, I can literally just pick this up with one hand, lift up the straw and then drink. There's not anything that I need to screw open on the top to use two hands or anything like that. It's quite easy to use. So definitely get you a water bottle that you love. Then, like I said, with the anxiety or depression, any mental issues that you might have, or being able to connect with the baby, I really found that meditation and daily affirmations really helped, and maybe talking to the baby once they can hear you, or, you know, journaling, doing videos like this really helped me. So anything like that to help connect with the baby. Also, I forgot to mention, as early as 12 weeks I started getting pelvic pain. I did have that pressure on my pelvis, and my pelvis was really widening at the time. I started experiencing around ligament pain. I can't help that I have to burp all the time.
Your baby probably doesn't want to be part of your YouTube journey. So it's like, yes, I'm gonna fart now so she can burp.
That's not why I burp, you idiot.
I don't know, man, it's just a joke. But it's kind of cute and disgusting if you think about it.
Okay.
Bro, you know what, man?
Yeah, man, do I really have to stop recording?
Just take off your jersey. It's late at night. Wipe the makeup off. Go put in your rollers in your hair. Put on your pajamas.
You see, this is why it's taking me so long. Can I just get through these points? So why are you dissing me? Can you just stop?
Show your
just
pants.
Stop.
Show them your pants.
Please, can I just focus, please?
Show them your unwashed hair.
No. Talk about wash hair.
Shame. I'm sure if I wring out your hair, all the oils will drip down. Okay, fry some
Are you
horses.
done?
Come make some horses.
So I definitely could feel the stretching and the pressure on my pelvis, and this caused a lot of pain. I was actually starting to waddle so early on in my pregnancy, and I didn't even have a bump at that time, but I'm waddling like a pregnant woman. Because it's true, because of all the pelvic pain that I was feeling. And then when I did some research, I found out that you actually shouldn't waddle.
Where did you find that research?
I searched it. Anyways, upon research I found out that you shouldn't waddle actually, because that actually makes the pain worse. And so okay, another tip for this is the way you sleep actually makes a big difference. You want to be sleeping with your knees and your ankles in line with one another, like parallel with one another, instead of having one leg bent up and the other leg straight. So like you're kind of sleeping like this. You would want to sleep like this, with your knees together and your ankles together. The further I went into my second trimester, I found that working out and yoga, stretching, those kinds of things that really helped the most with my pelvic pain. I could honestly do one 20-minute workout, one 20-minute yoga of stretching and things, and for my pelvic. Tip number 3 is to make sure you keep moisturized on your belly, on your body in general. But this tip I actually got from previous moms who were pregnant before, and they told me that I should start moisturizing from the first trimester, from as soon as I find out that I'm pregnant, on my belly. So I went out and I got some bio oil. This is just the Clicks brand because bio oil is quite expensive. And then every night I would just rub that on the belly. I also had argan oil in my lotion. I think Vaseline came out with a new argan oil body lotion, and that is what I use, and it makes me feel super hydrated and very soft. Next, you want to be washing your hair and washing your face regularly. Okay, because you will be producing excess sebum and natural oils in your hair and face, so make sure that you get yourself a good face wash that is safe during pregnancy. Do your research on this. I would try and avoid salicylic acid based on the research that I did, and definitely avoid retinoids and retinols, which is the ingredient in skincare that helps with anti-aging. So anything that does anti-aging, don't use that during pregnancy. And then lastly, I want to talk about breast comfort. And so you want to be investing in some supportive bras. I didn't want to stretch out my current expensive bras, so I went out and I bought some cheap, really supportive, no wire bras that I knew I could sleep in and I could stretch out however much I would like if I were to grow even more. The ones that I bought were from Ackermans, very cheap. I think they were about 200 for 2, and they have 3 or 4 hooks, which is very supportive. And also there's a hook at the back that brings the straps in to have that extra support. So that is everything that I wanted to catch you guys up on about my first trimester. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment down below any of your first trimester symptoms. If you did stick around till the end of this video, thank you so much. I'm going to give you guys a bump date. And as Salman says, I should show you my PJ pants that I'm wearing. Anyways, here's the bump. I'm currently 16 weeks pregnant, so I'm about 4 months now. Boop, 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 boop. So yeah, I'm really excited to take you guys on the rest of this pregnancy diaries. Stay tuned and I'll see you guys soon again, inshallah. Bye for now.